let's go move on to our sleepers. You have some deep sleepers here. I like them. So let's get into it. I mean, your guys in some leagues are going to be waiver picks. And like we
Yeah.
said, lots of outfield spots to fill. So who do you have for your sleepers in the outfield?
Yeah, so this first one is definitely, in a 12-team league, you're probably getting it, one of your last picks of the draft, but I have no problem if he is because I think he could fill one of your starting spots pretty quickly, and that's Will Benson. Midwest bias again, but um, we know what team he's on, right? Good team. He's on Cincinnati if you don't know, but he's on a good team.
Yeah,
He's in a good park, right? Which both things that I love, and I talk about the Reds too much. I'm sorry, but they have a lot of good things going.
a lot of good
He's
young players there.
Yeah. And he's slated to start in right field, which is a good start, good sign. And the thing that I like about him is so last year he came up to the major leagues and he sucked for his first
Hmm.
stint. He was so bad, they sent him down. And it was almost like something lit in him. So, I mean, he just started going off when he was sent down and they brought him back up. And in his final 280 plate appearances, he slashed 298, 389, 554. He had 11 home runs, 18 steals, and a 12%, 12.5% walk rate, which I absolutely love. The only downside, he had a 30% strikeout rate. So he has a little bit of a below average hit tool, but he gets on base. He has speed. He has power. I'm all in on Will Benson. I do want to also mention, too, he's not the greatest hitter against lefties. So he could end up being a strong side platoon if the Reds find somebody to platoon with. But even as a platoon bat, I still think he has value, right? And so, in your 12s and especially your 15s, right? If you have you're looking at the Reds and you say, oh, well, they're going to face five righties or six righties this week. Will Benson would be a perfect play. I could see him doing, having huge impact even as a platoon guy. So Will Benson is my first sleeper at pick 300.
All right, yeah, I like it. My first sleeper, I'm going to go with Starling Marte. I like him a lot because I think he's was just hurt last year. I don't think that was him. And I think he's another one of those guys who he's had a strong spring so far. We could see him moving up or down, however you want to, look at it, but moving up draft boards this year because I think he'll be a lot closer to the guy he was. I think people will realize that he really wasn't healthy. And this is a guy who we've seen seasons where he's been a top outfielder. He's been one of the best guys to have. And I think he could get back there with the Mets this year. I'm high on the Mets lineup this year. I don't love their pitching, but I've talked about it. I'm high on the Mets lineup, obviously high on Pete. I think McNeil's going to revert more back to the player and maybe not win the batting title, but more closer to that player than he was. I already mentioned Nimmo on this episode. Obviously, Francisco Lindor, if he's just a little bit more consistent, is already there. And then who knows what happens with Beatty and Alvarez and some of the younger guys. I think this lineup could be better than people think. And Starling Marte being in the middle or top of that lineup, right behind, maybe sandwiched between Pete and Nimmo could be a really good spot for him. And he could get a lot of production in that lineup.
Yeah, he only played 86 games last year. He still stole 24 bases. Like,
Exactly.
that's huge. I mean,
And that's when he was hurt. He's
yeah.
dealing with injuries.
And he's not as much of a one trick pony as, a guy like Ruiz. He's still got a little bit of pop. I mean,
Hmm.
we could probably expect a fully healthy season. He's going to hit 15 to 20, maybe a 260, 270 batting average, good amount of runs and RBIs. Yeah, I think that's a good call out. But you're absolutely right. He just has to stay healthy.
Yeah, but you take that risk at what is he going
Mm-hmm.
at 210, something like that around there.
Yeah,
Um,
223.
Yeah, so you take that risk in that spot. So I like it. I'm just gonna throw to the second one right away because I see a lot of people are high on him. But for his ADP, I still think he might be a little bit of a sleeper as Riley Greene. We talk a lot about the Tigers, um, but I like this kid. Again, you're convincing me. I think this is you doing this to me because the more I look at their lineup, I'm like, there's more than one guy that I like in this lineup. It's not just Torkelson. It's not just some of these other guys. The more I look at this team across the board, and we already mentioned one Tiger on this list. Now we have another one, another guy who I'm like, yeah, I think he's going to have a pretty good season. Now, people are getting high on Riley Greene. I do see that going around. Um, and it's another guy who it's like, if he could play a full season, because that's what we haven't seen from him yet. But if he could play a full season, high average, probably could get to 2020 stolen bases and home runs. Like, it's not out of the realm of possibility. Um, so I like him.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm just maybe I'm brainwashing you a little bit, but
I
I'm
think so.
telling you, the Tigers are not the Tigers that we're used to seeing over the last few years. This is a different team. And I don't know if you've been watching Tariq Skubal at all, but he is looking disgusting this spring. I mean,
Yep.
that dude could be a top 5 pitcher this year. Nobody would bat an eye. So
Yeah, and that's what
Tigers.
happens. I mean, it's usually if you're going to take a chance on pitchers, just to go that direction for a second, just because you
Mhm.
mentioned it, I'd much rather take a chance on a guy who's younger, who hasn't had to deal with the injuries and stuff like that yet. You know what I mean? Um, so yeah, to me, I like that.
Well, Tariq Skubal, I think, has had quite a bit of injury history. I mean,
Has he already?
yeah. That's been part of the reason why he's taken a while. Him, Matt Manning, and Casey Mize,
Right.
all of those guys have all kind of had their own injury history, so it's been a little bit tough for them. But
So then
it
forget
looks like
everything I said. Who cares?
he's past it though. That's one of those things. He threw 80 innings last year. I think we can expect 140, 150. But anyways, let's get back to the outfield. I'll give you my last sleeper pick. My last sleeper is Wilyer Abreu, who's currently going at pick 483. He is slotted in to be the starting right fielder for Boston Red Sox. So no more Midwest bias here. I'm over on the East Coast this time. This is definitely one of those. I mean, if you're in a 12-team league, you're probably not drafting him, but I want you to be aware of the name again, Wilyer Abreu, because
Mm-hmm.
this guy, he could have a huge impact in your 12-team leagues, but especially your 15s. If you're in a 15-team league, this is a guy I want you to take with one of your last few picks because he's got all of the fantasy friendly juice that we want to see. Um, Last season in 71 games, his final 71 games at AAA, he had 14 home runs with an 89.6 average exit velocity. And it also came with a solid 22% strikeout rate and a 16% walk rate, which is phenomenal. I love to see that. That is like upper echelon walk rate. He's a good field to hit. So, and then the more important thing, and the thing that I really like to see, it was only 28 games, but he continued that success when they brought him up at the end of last year with a 135 WRC plus. Again, small sample, but the reason why I like it is because it's encouraging to see that yes, those skills can translate. I am in on Wilyer Abreu. I think that at 483, that again feels like a steal. And in your 15 teamers, he could have a huge impact. In your 12s, maybe just a bench spot or someone to keep an eye on waivers as the season goes on.
My last guy, and we talked about 2020 Rosarina or last year's Garcia. He's another one of those guys that's kind of similar, where he goes off at the end of the year, goes off in the playoffs, and it feels like now people are high on him. But maybe Adolis Garcia is overshadowing him a little bit. And so maybe you can get him at a little bit of a better rate. But even if not, I kind of still like him as a sleeper. Let's see what he could do in a full season. I still like him, I should say, as, again, this is a guy who flew through the minor league system last year. And I still like him. I just wanted to mention him is what I'm trying to say. And so even I think it's good value. I don't know how much of a sleeper it is, but that's Evan Carter for the Texas Rangers.
Yeah, he's not much of a sleeper. I mean, where's he
Yeah.
going right now at pick? Evan Carter. Maybe he is. Oh, 123. That's lower than Asterio Ruiz, which is
Right.
kind of
That
mind-boggling to
exactly.
me.
That's where I saw him. I saw him going in the like 110 to 120 range. So again, it's not, maybe it's more of a best value play than a sleeper play. But I think, again, that's a really good value pick for a guy who, again, you're relying on him taking that step and translating it to a full season. But apparently he hit and everything he did, it worked at every level. So I like Evan Carter.
Yeah, I think that's a good call out, and you just hope he can stay healthy. I know the Rangers have quite a bit of problems staying healthy right now. Adolis Garcia, I think, is going to make his debut a week from today or something, or maybe it was today. I don't know. He's supposed to be soon, but lots of injuries. We don't know if Wyatt Langford's going to come up soon, so it's going to be kind of hard to predict his playing time. But it seems like he's locked in. I mean, you mentioned it last year in the playoffs; he was there, so you kind of got to give the guy another chance. I mean, he was red hot, so continue to give him the chance. And yeah, I think it's a good call.